are working, but as we continue, as said, right. We continue to the next one. It says, another important piece of evidence is the Septuagint LXX. It is a Hebrew scripture translated into Greek beginning around the 3rd century BC in Alexandria, Egypt. And Egypt, of course, because many Jews no longer understood Hebrew well enough to read the scriptures in their original languages. So you see how much Hellenization would have damaged their way of living through the captivities, various captivities, if would have removed the ways of the Israelites, of the Jakes. Hence, Psalms 83 always comes back to mind. For lo, an enemy make a tumult, and they that hate, they have lifted up the head. That they can crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Here's the point. They have said, come on, let us cut them off from being a nation. That has taken place. They were cut off from being that nation, not covenantally, but through identity on this earth, because we now have a new people professing to be us, when true covenantally we are still the people. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we still receive salvation, but at this time, many of us are in a lost state, thinking we are Gentiles, thinking we are Greeks, thinking we are heathens, thinking we are Africans. This is exactly the way in which to destroy the people if they cannot destroy them by eliminating all of them in numbers. Very simple, very clear. Destroy the mind and then destroy the people. How do you destroy the mind? Bitter bondage, removing their ways and their history. Throughout generations, they believe less and less until the point where a generation comes where they are not taught that they are Israel, but they are taught that they are Greek, that they are taught that they are Egyptians, that they are taught that they are Africans, that they are taught that they are other nations. It's very clear. I mean, I don't think we need to go through all this breakdown, but for those that are new, they need to hear it. So the progression is Babylon captivity, Hebrew and Aramaic remained important. Persian period, Aramaic became widely used. Greek rule, Coney, Greek spread throughout the region. Roman period, Rome ruled politically, but Greek remained the common language in the Eastern Empire. This is why by the time the Messiah, Yahushua, and the apostles, there were many Greek-speaking Jews, and why the New Testament was written in Coney Greek, even though it was centered on the Jewish or the Israelite Messiah and followers. That should make you open your eyes a little bit from that read. That should open your eyes a little bit because it makes you now realize. So now we must understand what was Paul's message and who was his message set out to. Because if we do not know this, according to the scriptures, according to where it was written, according to the textual language that was given, Paul's writing was given to the children of Israel. Those that were lost in translation, lost of the understanding, and those that were lost, and those that still at the same time were rejecting those that were lost because of their ancestors and what they would have done at that time. As we know. Now, let's prove that. We proved in two things. Let's get some information on ChatGPT again. So the way that I did screenshot this was, I ended up taking as it was, copying as it was, and pasting it. So the first became the last, which was supposed to be here, and the last is the first. So we read it from right to left in this one. It's Paul's operating definition, key text. Roman 2, no, I'm going to get the first part. This is the question. You gotta go into this one first. The Greeks or Gentile mentioned in Paul's writing, was it speaking about Israel? Notice, no folly, no folly. And I understand what it says. Yes, in many, not all places, Paul is speaking about Israel, but Israel in a Gentile and Gentilized, Hellenized status, not covenantal, abolished Israel, meaning they're not, you know what I mean? So place first things first. We understand that many of the people that we refer to as Gentiles in the scriptures were speaking about Israel. Not all, but the majority. So when it says not all, it wasn't incorrect. Alright? So just now I'll prove that from Paul himself using framework you set. Okay. So let's see what he's talking about. Right, so Paul's operating definition, key text. He says, Romans 2 and verses 28 and 29. I guess it's a short version because it's longer than this. It says, for he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. In other words, in order to be a Jew, part of it is you must keep the ways that the Father said to keep. You want to be an Israelite or a Jew, you have to keep the standard which the Jew or the Israelite is supposed to keep according to Yahweh Shimon Shai. The moment you decide not to do so, or you break commandments, you are cut off from among your people, and therefore you can't claim to be a Jew. That's first hand. You can't claim to be a Jew or Israelite because you're not keeping the ways that the Father said for you to keep. Number one. Number two is referring to what those that were in a gentile state of mind had to reform themselves. And it also shows that it also gives a light to the Pharisees who was professing themselves to be Jews. And who is these people? These people are disobedient. They are uncircumcised. And they are this and they are that. That's what it's going into also. But let's continue. It says Paul is redefining status. Paul is redefining status, not lineage. Right? Let's keep going. Because we know. It says this means Israel can be called not a Jew outwardly. It says while still remaining Israel inwardly by covenant seed. So, perfectly clear. Because Israel, as we know, by covenant of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, was everlasting covenant, to be exact. No matter what they do, they will never stop being the Lord's people. And He will always lead them back to Him through the process of reconciliation, which you grab also after. Let's get the first precept which we just was talking about. Alright? Which was Psalms. Psalms, I'm not gonna lie, I'm walking a good distance to the destination. Psalms 105 and verses 8 to 10, I believe. Ah boy. Now we'll go from verse 6. Right. It says, O ye seed of Abraham, his servant. Oh yeah. And ye children of Jacob, his chosen. It says, He is Yahweh, our power. His judgment. As we continue, it says, He had remembered His covenant forever, the word which He commanded for 1,000 generations, which covenant He made with Abraham and His oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for everlasting covenant. Right here, make sure I highlight this shit. Everlasting covenant. Oh boy. So in other words, we are directly connected and tied to Yahweh Shemel Shai forever. Right? So understanding Paul's writing, you're going to understand it's speaking about the covenantal seed that were lost due to Hellenization, due to disobedience, of course. Alright? Well, we are precept again, as he said earlier, in the instance, go back into the law. The law gave a very clear understanding of this. If you do these things, this is what's going to happen. It's going to separate you from your power. Simple as you can get. Separate you from the land. Separate you from your people. You're going to go astray. But if it is you do what? If it is you do what? They're going to first. It says, for whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off among their people. Therefore shall he keep mine ordinances, that ye commit not any of these abominable customs which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein, for I am Yahweh. So you listen, you are not to worry about. But you don't listen, you are going to be cut off. You're going to be sent away. When I tell you sent away, literally sent away. Deuteronomy 4 and verse 27. Here it says, and Yahweh shall scatter you among the heathens, and you shall be left few in numbers Sorry. Deuteronomy 4 verse 27. Yahweh shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in numbers amongst the heathens. Whither Yahweh shall lead you, and there ye shall serve gods, the works of men's hand, wood and stone, you neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. And that is because of what? The disobedience. And how you know that? Because it says this. But if from thence thou shalt seek Yahweh thy power, and thou shalt find him, if thou shalt seek him with all thy heart, with all thy soul, going back into Deuteronomy 6 and verses 5, meaning with everything, and when thou art in tribulation, and all these days, all these things shall come upon thee, and even in the latter days, if thou turn to Yahweh thy power, and shall be obedient unto his voice. So the reason why I go into it is because you were not obedient, as we showed, and he gave you a way to come back out of it is by your obedience. Now for that to be said is what? The prophets have to come. Prophets come and show themselves, reveal themselves, reveal their purpose, and give light unto who the Father is and who you are as a people, like many of the disciples would have done at that time. Even Paul, very, very clear mention, because he was dealing with what? The Gentiles, the Greeks, the Greek-speaking Jews. The Israelites that were in a Hellenized state. The purpose is what? Reconciliation. And this is what he's going into. So we have to open the eyes of the blind so that they could see their errors of their ways, and they themselves would turn back to power and be reconciled back to him. This all this is telling you here now. He gave an opportunity to come back to the Father. For, where he says, for thence thou shalt, but if from thence thou shalt seek Yahweh with all thy power, thou shalt find him, if thou seek him with all thine heart and with all thy soul. It says, when thou art in tribulation in all these days, and all these things shall come upon thee, and even in the latter days, if thou turn to Yahweh, to Yahweh thy power, and shall be obedient unto his voice. It says, for Yahweh thy power is a merciful power. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget thy covenant of thy fathers, which he sware unto thee. Which goes back into the covenant, which is the everlasting covenant also. I remember, like I preached before you continue, for those who think they could go and get slick, we're cutting off every nip, every corrupted seed, every corrupted lump we're cutting off. It says, Psalms 89 and verse 34, my covenant would I not break, not alter the things that are going to my lips. So it is impossible for the children of Israel to be set aside and new heathens brought in if the covenant was for the children of Israel to be saved. But the covenant is for the children of Israel to be back in their lands, brought back, gathered back into the lands. We have high regalia, high power, high status, ruler over the earth, and the other heathens have to be in subjection to them. Then trying to add in these heathens, if Paul was speaking to these heathens, then trying to add in these heathens would be a direct breach. A breach against the covenant, because the people that were supposed to be added in were only Israelites by seed and covenant. Let me say it again, I'll it slow. If Paul, as you all try to put and say, was speaking to actual heathens and not Israel that were lost due to Hellenization and were lost due to disobedience, then and the heathens, real Edomites, real Moabites, real heathens were the ones that were set in place instead of the replacement, as you like to use, replacement theology, then it will also mean that Paul would have been breaching the law and the covenant which the Father would have made as a covenant that what we read is set forever, and he said his covenant will I not break, nor also things that go out of my lips. That also means that Paul would have not been a prophet. He would have been a false prophet if that was the case. But he came in the like-mindedness of Yahweh Bashim Yoshai. And as we see the very vague explanations and expressions being portrayed, that he what? What did he do? He spoke to who? The Greeks and the Gentiles that were Israelites. They had an Israelite covenant, an Israelite by seed. Which is why Romans 9:3-4 it says, if I can return myself for a curse from a Mashiach, for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh. My kinsmen, because he was an Israelite. My kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption and the glory and the covenant. Why is that mentioned? Why was that mentioned? And the giving of the law. Why was that mentioned? And the service of God and the promises. It was given, it is for them. Pertaining to it only belongs to them. Why was that mentioned? Why did he have to recall his lineage, identity, and who his people are, if it wasn't for them? And then say it is for them, only for them. Come on, we need to read. Matter of fact, we're passing time. Stay tuned to the next lesson. Shalom.